This video is going to cover the Access Chapter 2 Pause and Practice assignment. We are going to start this with a blank database. So you're going to navigate to try to find a place to put your database, hopefully in your ITD 122 folder, somewhere on your desktop or on your drive. And we're going to put it in your Access Chapter 2 folder. You should be putting in your initials space PP space A2-3. So we are naming this with the last possible file name that would be assigned to the file. And we're going to go ahead and hit create. We have this default table that starts off, and we're actually going to go into design view of that table. If you don't have a table that pops up right when you open it, you can hit create and then hit table design, and that'll put you in it. But this is going to be called your equipment table. And then we're going to follow a series of steps to create this table. We are going to put in equipment ID instead of ID, and then we are going to add a description. That's going to be a short text data type, and then we're eventually going to put in product name, short text data type, and we're going to be filling all of this information in going down, choosing the different data types and each of the different descriptions. So take a minute and pause the video if you need to and get all of that typed in. After you have each of the different data types, short text, short text, short text, currency, 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 date/time, long text, double check, make sure that you have all your descriptions typed in correctly. Make sure that you have your field names typed in without any spaces and any capital letters. We get into actually formatting some field properties down below and making sure that those field properties align with the directions. So we're going to move down to number 6 because we've already established the entire table is filled out, all the data types are chosen, and the descriptions are in. So number 6 asks us to go to the equipment table. We're going to type in the field size of 5. So you're going to go down here, you probably have 255, take that out and put in a 5. Then we're going to be looking at making sure that the required property box is checked with yes. So your required property box is going to be right down here at the bottom in our field properties. So this is a required field. So you should have this as a yes. You could type it in, or you can hit the drop down menu here and type in or click on yes. And then from there, we're going to go to E, and we're going to add 3 additional properties. So we are going to product name, and we're going to type in 45, and then we are doing a less than symbol here. So you're going to hit shift and comma, and then a bracket, and those you do not need to hold. Actually, let me double check. You do not need to hold shift down for the brackets, and then the word blue, and then another bracket. And I'll explain what we're doing here in a minute and why, what this is. So we've typed in 45 for the field size for product name, and we've also typed in a specific type of format. From there, our next step is going to be to go to category. We're going to type in a field size of 30. And then for date purchased, we're going to do medium date. So category, you're going to take out 255, put in 30. And then date purchased here in this drop-down menu, I want you to choose medium date. Once you have medium date in, we're going to move down to number 7. Number 7 tells us to save the table, and we're going to close the table out. We're going to import the equipment data file to this table. So it's really important, since we're importing another table to this already existing table, that all of our field names are correct. If there is a field name that doesn't line up with this information here, then you'll get an error when you're trying to import it. So if your Excel sheet has daily rental rate and there's a space in it in the Excel sheet, it's not going to read it. It's not going to line up exactly with what Access is showing, because it needs to know exactly where to put that info. So I'm going to minimize my directions here, make sure that I have this saved. I'm going to close out of my equipment table, and we're going to go to external data, and we're going to go to new source. And we are going from File, Excel, and this should be in your Excel Chapter 2 folder. And we're clicking that equipment data file. We are adding it to the equipment table, so we're choosing the second option down here. We're going to hit OK. And this is where we're only importing 3 fields here. This information, equipment ID, product name, comments, there's no spaces here. We want to make sure, again, you have no spaces in your table. Otherwise, this won't import correctly. So we're going to hit next, finish, and then close. And when you open up your equipment table, you should see only 3 fields have been imported here. We have 10 records, just like it indicates in number 10. Number 11 asks us to change the row height of the table. But I am going to back up for a second. If you are having problems importing that table, make sure that you have everything typed in those 3 fields correctly. Make sure you don't have any additional information or requirements down in your properties that aren't supposed to be there, and make sure that you have the correct data types chosen. Otherwise, you shouldn't have any issues. If you do, make sure you reach out to your instructor and send them your database so that they can try to find the error if there is an error. All right, moving on from there, we are on number 11. We're going to change the row height here to 58. So we're just left clicking on any of the row selectors, then right click and go to row height. We're going to type in 58. Once you hit enter, those row heights adjust. I would also drag across your black arrow across equipment ID all the way through comments, and then double click on that pink line at the end. So that way everything is best fit, and then you can see your entire table. Number 12 has you modify product and comments columns so that you can change the column width. We're just going to skip that now because I've already did an auto fit on that. So we're headed down to 13. Improve the formatting display of the comments field. It wants us for the equipment ID 9925, position the pointer after bucket, and we're going to hit Control Enter so that bucket now starts on the second line before bucket. So we are looking for 9925. Here's bucket, and we're just hitting Control Enter here. So we're shortening up a couple of these, and then we'll auto fit this column again. So we did 9925. Now we're looking for 10015, and before wait. Then we are going to go down to 1013, and we're going to do before the 6 in 67 length. And we're just doing those 3, and then we're going to be starting with 2-2. So I'm going to hit Control S on my table, and then I'm going to auto fit that comments column one more time just so that it's auto fit. And then we're going to move on to the next set of directions. So right here we are looking to add a couple of different rules down into our properties of the fields. So we're going to go back into design view, and in the equipment table still, we're going to add a validation rule for the equipment ID field. And this is to help keep the database in line, basically structured correctly. So if other people go into this database, then they can't violate this rule. So we're going to go into design view, and then we're in equipment ID, and we only want people to be able to type in 5 numbers. So down on the rule, we're going to type in like space quote, and then we're going to do 5 pound signs, and then unquote. And then if they violate this rule, the validation text that's going to pop up is that the equipment ID must contain 5 numbers. So you can copy and paste this in if you have the directions up, or you can go ahead and type it in. There's no period on the end. From there, we're going to test it. So we're going to go back to the equipment ID field in the datasheet view. So you have to hit save before you can switch, and you're just going to hit yes that you want the existing data to be tested with the new rules. And we're in design view, and here you can really easily test it. I think it has you add a new record, but we can just test it by doing this. So if we take out the 5 and hit the down arrow, we automatically get this error message that pops up. The equipment ID must contain 5 numbers. So you created that rule. It has to have 5 numbers. Otherwise, you can't move on to the next record. So I'm going to hit OK. We're going to put the 5 back in there. We're going to go back into design view, and then we're going to get ready to move on to the next number, which is going to be number 7. We're going to add a record validation rule. So these rules are a little bit longer. Make sure that you take your time typing them out or copying and pasting them over so that way there aren't any errors. But what we're looking to do, kind of an overview, is create a rule where if we lend out a piece of equipment or rent out a piece of equipment to a customer, we don't want the daily rate to be greater than the weekly rate, right? We can't charge someone $50 for the daily rate, but then only charge them $10 for the weekly rate. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to create a rule in which they cannot have that weekly rate be greater than the daily, and then the monthly rate cannot be greater than the weekly. So to create this rule, we are going to still be down in the validation rule, but because this involves more than one field, we're going to make it basically a rule kind of for the actual table itself. So we're going to create it in a different spot. We're going to go to the property sheet, or you can hit F4 on your keyboard. And over here in your property sheet, and we can make this a little bit bigger, you can see validation rule and validation text. Now this is where you can add the rule and the text if it has to do with more than one field. So the other rule and text we created was for just the equipment ID, but this involves more than one field. So we're going to create this validation rule. Here's the rule here in 7D, and I'm going to copy and paste that rule over. And you can put the rule in any way you want. If you want to just paste it in here, you can, or you can click on this build button. And when you build it, again, you're just still pasting it in. So I did Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And the rule states that the weekly rental rate must be greater than the daily rental rate, and monthly rental rate must be greater than the weekly rental rate. So you can either type that out, copy and paste it over, make sure that you use the correct greater than symbols and brackets. I'm going to hit OK, and then we need a validation text if that rule is violated. So I'm going to again grab the text from G. I'm going to hit Control C, and whoops, we are going here and Control V that in. And again, I'm going to take that period off the end. So I just Control V'd it in here. There's, I believe, a same build button. There might not be actually for this one. You can right click and hit zoom though, and it'll take you into this, which is a little bit wider. I'm going to clean that up just a little bit just to make sure. I don't believe you need a period. Go ahead, let's put the period in there, because I think the direction has it with a period. So we're going to keep that period there. The weekly rate must be greater than the daily rate, and the monthly rate must be greater than the weekly rate. All right, so we've typed that in. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. You can close out of the property sheet, or you can hit F4, and then I'm going to go back to data sheet view. Yes, we're going to the table. Yes, we want the singles to work correctly. And then I'm getting an error message that says could not find field weekly rental rate. So, and I saw that when I was copying over. I'm going to go back into, I'm going to hit OK, OK, back into my property sheet and just double check this text here. So because the text is not in there correctly, I think these are not supposed to have spaces. So let me check something. Okay, I actually found my error. It wasn't in the text or in the actual rule. Over here, I have a typo, which I told you, everyone, make sure you don't have any typos. I have rental, so we need rental. So again, Access couldn't recognize that field, and that's why it wasn't going to allow me to run that rule. So I'm going to close out of the property sheet. Now I can go into data sheet. Yes, I'm seeing the table. Yes, I want to update the rules. And now, did I spell something wrong in monthly? Yeah, I did. Oh my goodness. Monthly, M-O-N-T-H-L-Y. So if you have an error, Access will definitely call you out on it. Again, save it. Yes, we're updating it. And go ahead and hit that you want to keep the new existing rule. We're going to hit yes. And here's where we can test that rule out. So right now we have all zeros, and it asks us to start putting in some information to test this rule. So 8B asks us to go to the daily rental rate, type in 160, and then we're going to select the weekly rental rate and type in the same 160 and then 160 again. And then when we hit the down arrow, it's basically telling us, okay, we're done typing in that record. Here's the error message that we should get. So let's go 160, over arrow 160, over arrow 160, down arrow, error message. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. It's not going to accept that. And here's where we are going to get to the point where we want to type in monthly is going to be actually 640. And it has, you type in weekly, which is 640. Again, it's not going to allow you to do that. You're going to get that same error message. So in K, we finally type in 1924 monthly. So let's type in 640 for weekly, then monthly. What did I just say? Sorry, 1920, 1920. And then we're going to hit the down arrow. So we were able to put those amounts in because they don't violate that rule at all. We're going to be in number 9, and what we're doing is we are looking to create a lookup wizard, basically like a combo box. So let's do this in design view. All right, so we're going to go to category here, and you could do this in table fields tab and click on the drop down menu here, and you could choose I don't see lookup wizard as an option there, but let's do it in design view. I'm more used to doing it that way anyway. So we're gonna hop in design view, and we are looking at category. Go into data type here, and down at the bottom, this is the lookup wizard. I'm sure there's a command in the other view. We're just gonna do it in design view. So category, we're looking for lookup wizard, and what we're doing, like I said, is creating values. So we want to be able to choose from a list of a category of this piece of equipment. So if it's a compact almond diesel tractor, is it a tractor, or is it a piece of plumbing equipment, or is it a piece of gardening equipment? We want to be able to click on the actual values and from a drop down list. So we're going to click, I will type the values that I want. We're going to hit next. And then here's where we're going to type out these values. The first one's going to be generators. Again, try to make sure that you don't have any spelling errors. GNERATORS. Hand tools, plumbing, sawing, cutting, grinding, and tractors. After you've typed them all in, and you can stretch this out if you need to, so that way you can see the entire column there. Generators, hand tools, plumbing, sawing, cutting, and symbol and grinding, and tractors. We're going to hit next. We're going to limit this to list. So we don't want any user of this database to be able to type anything else in. And we're going to go ahead and hit finish. And then from here, we are going to create an input mask. So you'll see that combo box in a minute. Number 10 has us create an input mask for medium date. And we are also creating an input mask for phone number, I believe. Just double checking something here. Looks like just medium date for now. So let's click on medium date, or date purchased, sorry. Date purchased, and our format here is, oh, I had medium date. Let me double check that, make sure it's still there. Medium date, input mask. We're going to click on the 3 little dots here. Once you click on those 3 little dots, then yes, we're saving the table. We're going to choose this medium date option here. And basically what this is doing is creating a template to allow you to put in this format for your dates. So you'll have to enter that in left to right. I'm going to hit next, next, and then finish. And then number 11 asks us to change the required property of date purchased to yes, product name, category, daily rental, basically everything to yes except for comments. So we are going to go ahead and start up with product name. We're going to change this from required down to yes. And you can type it in if that's easier. We're going to change category, required, down to yes. And then we're going to go to daily rental rate, required, and we're changing that to yes. Weekly, and then monthly as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and save this. Then we're going to go into, we're going to hit yes and yes again if you have those that pop up. Oh, and date purchased. I think I missed one. Let's go one more. Date purchased. We're going to hit yes. And again, save, yes, and yes. And then we're going to go to data sheet view. And here's where that combo box will pop up. So if you click in category in that drop down menu, this is the menu that you created using that lookup wizard. And then here is your date purchased. So we just created the date purchased, and there will be a couple of dates that we're going to be adding here according to the directions. And you're going to want to do those left to right, just in the same format as what's in the directions. So if we scroll down, we are looking at this table 2-15. We're going to choose the categories for each of these. We're going to fill in the daily rental rates and the weekly rental rates and the monthly rental rates, as well as the date purchased. So this is going to take a few minutes to go ahead and put in. You can pause the video. On the next screen, you will see that I've completed mine. But before that, I will make a note. When you go to do the date purchased, you're going to want to click up here, 10 OCT, and then 20. You're going to want to enter that in left or right when you go to enter that. If you're on the right side of it, it'll give you an error message or it'll ding. Another thing I did forget to mention is that blue formatting that we did, a greater than symbol and then the blue. That made all of these letters capitalized in product name, and it also made them blue. So if you remember that, that was in 2-1, I believe, when we first set this database up and we imported or set up this table and we imported that information. It made everything blue and in capital letters. And again, hopefully you're reading through your sim book, and that'll give you some more information about some of those different options that are available for format. So it should look very similar to this when it's done. You'll have all of your categories filled in, your daily, weekly, monthly rental rates, and your date purchased. So we're going to go ahead and save our equipment table, and then we're going to close out of our equipment table, and then we are actually creating another table. So we're going to hit create, we're going to go to table design, and then we are on 2-3, and we're going to type in service ID, and we are creating this whole table here, service date, service type. We're going down and we're typing all of this in. And this table is going to be saved as your service history table. So if you hit Control S, you're going to call it service history. You're typing in all of the field names, hopefully without any errors. You're typing and choosing each of the different data types and descriptions. And then from there, you are going to be looking at changing some of the field properties. So we are going to click in our service ID field, and you're going to do a field size of 6. Then we are going to go to service date, and we're going to choose our format, which is general date. Right in here, we're going to choose general date. And then we are going to go down to service type, and these are going to be required. So all of these fields from service ID will automatically be required because that's your primary key. And again, if it's not your primary key, make sure you choose primary key up here. Service date, we chose required down here. Then you're going to go to service type, and you're following the directions, or you can kind of follow as I'm telling you what to do. Your service type is 15, then you should have required. Then you have a description. Your field size stays 255 and it's required. Perform by. Your field size is going to be 3. It's also required. Then your FK equipment ID is field size of 5, also required. And your total cost format is going to be currency. So here you're going to have currency, and down here the format is also going to be currency, and it is also required. We are going to put a default value in here of 0 inside your currency or inside your total cost field. So you are going to add that default value, and that's probably a little bit ahead, but you can add it now. We're going to be on number 8, unless it's already there. It may have just auto popped up. On number 8, we are going to choose a combo box for our service type. So we're going to go into service type, and we're going to go to the lookup wizard again, just like we did before, to create that combo box. And I will type the values that I want. Then you're going to hit next. Our 3 values are going to be maintenance, repair, inspection. So we have to type that in here. And we're going to hit next. Actually, let me make sure I did maintenance. Then we're going to hit next, and let's limit to list, and then finish. And then we're going to go down to number 10. So we are saving this table and closing it out, and we're going to create a relationship between the 2 tables. So you can only create a relationship between a primary key and a field in another table. Looking at these 2 tables, we can see we have an equipment ID, product name, category, day, weekly, rental, monthly rate, date purchase, and then comments. And in the service history, our service ID is when that field was serviced. We also have a service date, service type, description, performed by, an FK equipment ID. This FK equipment ID is going to be the same ID as what is in our equipment ID here. So we're going to create a relationship between those 2 fields in 2 separate tables. So both tables have to be closed out before you can create a relationship. We're going to go up to the Database Tools tab and click on Relationships. Both of your tables, whether it pops up in the middle of your screen or whether it pops up here, if you select both of your tables with Control, you can hit Add Selected Tables, or you can add them individually by double-clicking them. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're going to hover over our table bottoms, and we are going to grab the bottom and drag it down just so we can see all of our fields. So again, we're looking in the service history table, and we're going to click on that FK equipment ID, and we're going to drag and drop that on top of equipment ID in our equipment table, because those are the 2 fields that are in common between both of those tables. So after we've dragged that on top of it, we are going to check a couple of boxes here. We're going to click all 3 boxes to create the relationship. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to hit create, and you can read about each of those different join types and those relationships in your sim book. And if you ever need to edit that relationship, you can right click on this and hit show all relationships, and it'll pop up and allow you to do that. Or you can click edit relationships there. Sorry, click edit relationships there if you needed to check an extra box or uncheck a box. After we create the relationship, the join line pops up. We're going to hit save, and then we are going to close out of our relationship, and we are going to import some data into our service history table. So we're going to go back up to that external data tab, new data source, and we're going to go to Excel. And then we are going to browse, and this time we're looking for that service history data file that's in our Chapter 2 folder, and we're adding it to our service history table. So make sure that you choose service history. We're going to hit OK. Hopefully all of your field names match the Excel spreadsheet that you're getting ready to import, you can hit next and then finish. I have a subscript out of range error, which is a common error that students get. Most likely I have something typed wrong. So I did want to make sure I got a couple of errors just in case you guys were going to experience the same errors. I'm going to look for my error and let you know what that is. So I just went ahead and closed out of my database as a whole and opened it back up, and then it imported fine. So I don't know what the issue actually was. All of my field names lined up with my field names in the Excel sheet that I was importing. So if you get that same subscript out of range error, just try closing out of the entire database and then opening it back up, and you shouldn't have any issues. If you do have an issue, you can try to reach out to your instructor. Again, make sure that all of the field names line up first. So once you've imported that, the next thing is to go into number 12, and we are actually looking at our equipment history table, or our equipment table. So what we can see now, since we created that relationship, are these sub-data sheets. So 9925 was serviced on all of the following dates. The service was performed by these individuals. This is the description of the service. It's importing basically information from that service history table over to the equipment table in these sub data sheets, which is really nice way to review the data for each piece of equipment. So that's what that relationship did, and that's only going to happen once we have all of the information in that service history table. Our last step is to go to the equipment table. We're going to go to print preview, put it in landscape. We're also going to make sure our margins are at normal, and then we're done. So I'm going to open up the equipment table file. We're going to go to print. We're going to go to print preview. We're going to choose landscape, and then we're going to go to margins and make sure they're normal. And then this is it.